like the ancillary businesses, if you think about all the things that have spun up from it, like just even now you're an engineering firm or a specialty engineering firm that only does HVAC design or whatever it may be. Like it's definitely a unique plant to grow indoors versus other traditional agriculture indoors. But but all these specialty companies are spinning up, and I think I truly believe that. I mean, I'd like to see, like, I don't think there's as much as in the quotes, the cannabis tax. I don't think people are overcharging. I'm sure there are still some, but they filtered it out now where people, like in the early days when they, 5 or 6 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, people getting into it and they feel like they're making a ton of money, so they're just going to charge them whatever. You can't do that. The consumer is super smart now.
Shining a light on picks and shovels. Tony Pavlakis from TSRgrow, based out of Rhode Island, US, knows better than most the beneficial role that ancillary businesses play in the cannabis sector. But as Europe opens up and the US makes plans to reschedule cannabis, what are the opportunities and challenges?
My bro Joe, he says, rescheduling cannabis is a go. Welcome to the lobsterpot, everyone. I'm Dave Barton, and I'm here. I guess it's kind of celebratory, slightly jubilant sort of feel around the cannabis industry at the moment. It's, the announcement of, being rescheduled from 1 to 3. What does that mean for the rest of the world? What does it mean in America? Well, I don't really know. I can kind of speculate. But a man in the know who has been in the cannabis industry for, how many years is it now, Tony?
4.5 years now.
4.5 years. In the legal industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. But Tony Pavlakis from TSRgrow, how are you doing, sir? Always a pleasure to see you.
I'm doing well, my friend. Doing very well. It's glad to be on your show. I love talking with people across the pond, and it's all good stuff.
That's it. Dig in the background, obviously. I can change. This is the great thing about doing this on the kind of Google. You can have all these different backgrounds. I just love it. I just love it. But it's a lot of fun. And I can change things. It gets very distracting because you can upload your own pictures, but we'll stick with this for now. But tell us, sir, we've had the announcement yesterday. I think it's probably been about 24 hours since, I sort of went on LinkedIn and everyone's like, oh, guess what? Guess what's happening? Guess what's happening? And everyone's like, I don't know. And then it's kind of like everyone's saying the same news, which is kind of interesting. But what do you think the idea of rescheduling cannabis, what does that kind of mean in the US for everyday people, not necessarily in the cannabis industry?
Well,
what's your sort of take on it?
I don't know that kind for everyday people, but I mean directly associated with cannabis. They're going from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3. I know I'm not like the do all end all. I'm just reading what they see online. So to like make total clarity of it, the DA has now. I think it's not. I don't think it's been rescheduled. They're saying it's on the table to be talked about. So it's not like, there's all these people that are really excited, and I think that's great for the excitement. I never want to curb anyone's enthusiasm, but I think that they still have to go. I'm sure there's some more lawyers and more litigation and politicians to kind of go through to totally classify it as a Class 3. But I know that I think some of the big things are there. It's like the 280 tax codes it's going to be help that.
Now that means, as I understand it, one of the biggest benefits is that basically businesses working in the cannabis sector in the US can actually claim business expenses, which the fact that they couldn't do that before is frankly ludicrous, but that's a huge part of it, is that right?
Yeah, because there's some big numbers that people are spending out there on the day-to-day operations that they're not able to write off, and I think it's some of the investment side of it. But I mean, I'm not a tax guy, but I know that everybody complains about the 280E, and I know that that's a big benefit. And and then there's some concerns up and down or back and forth about, is this going to help the small grower? Is this only going to benefit the big pharma grower? Is pharma going to step into it? And I mean, I'm being that we kind of operate in all sides, like we do a lot of small grows as well as a lot of large grows. And I think pharma's already in it. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, if I look at stuff that's going on in the EU, and even here in the US, they're starting to get into it, and then they have a lot of lobbying money, and they'll get some things pushed their way, I'm sure. Is it fair for the small guy? No, but I think that like when you look at it like in the beer industry, there's the big beer companies, and then there's the other guys that all these micro brews and micro taps that still make a pretty good living. So I think there's room for everyone to play.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But it's kind of figuring how it will shake out, and like you kind of said, it's not really a thing yet, and frankly, like a lot of it's not a thing till it's a thing. And again, this is what kind of was happening in Germany a couple of years ago, wasn't it? But no,
for sure.
it was kind of, oh, the announcement's made, this is going to happen. It's taken 2 years and it's still not complete. We're still kind of halfway to some, this is
July
kind of
1 is what they told us. I
Yeah.
was just talking to someone this morning in Germany, and
really.
they're saying they're very excited. Yeah, they're getting very excited, but they still have to, like, we were trying to put a timeline on it. Like when someone with the social clubs, if July 1 is today and everybody applied for a license, did they actually, when you applied, you automatically get it? Or is there like a million people applying and then there's an approval process? There's that portion that you got to shake out.
Yeah.
Where that, someone was saying that, geez, I want to order whatever it is. Is it a Harvest Pro, or is it just they want to get lighting for their facility? Things still have to shake out, because is it an approval process? I know the state, we'll call it the state or the country of Germany, approves it, and now is each small individual state or region. Like the city states. I'm not sure what they call them in Germany.
Yeah,
but I mean, is like Berlin going to approve it, but all the different other towns, are they going to approve it? Are they going to want a cannabis facility in their town? It doesn't matter if the country says yes, then everybody has to say yes. So, and then like the timeline we're starting to say with people, if you apply July 1 and you get it July 1, is it just an application and a fee and you get it? And then like now you're going to start to plan your grow, or are you planning it now? So there's definitely some, even like they approved it. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, I think it's not, we don't really know until things start to sort of move and people start to go, well, hang on, we've done that. What does that mean? It's almost kind of like, you can have the right, but even just making an announcement and sort of it being like, we will do this. And even when it's done, it's like, okay, there's still that runway to kind of make it into a viable market, whether it be a kind of not-for-profit, as I guess what's happening in Germany, well, at least for now, and I guess more commercial as well. But again, for you guys at TSRgrow, that's still, it's regardless of whether it's medical or CBD or, as long as someone's growing flower, you guys can sort of step in. And that's one of the good things about how you can scale what you do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, we participate in both sides of it, and we do a lot. I know we talk a lot about Cannabis United, but we still do traditional agriculture too. Like we have projects that we're doing, big lettuce farms and big tomato farms, which is great. But I mean, the cannabis side of it, it is like we can work in either side, medical or adult use, or I'm not sure how they want to call it, recreational adult use, depending on the country and the state. But it's definitely we play with them, and we do everything we can to help them grow and kind of help navigate it too, because the certain states and then certain countries have different standards. There's like GMP, certain, like sometimes if it's a full medical program, like that's actually happening right now in Germany, where like the medical people that are growing for medical to sell in the medical market have to follow, from my understanding. Again, I'm not I haven't read every single law paper on it, but they have to be EU GMP and GMP certified facilities, and they have to have the SOPs set up, so standard operating practices. But do they really in the we'll call it in the social club, depending on the size of it, because it's being sold as like an adult use and it's a private club, do they necessarily have to follow all the GMP standards? So that we're asking some of these people for some clarity on that. Some people said, no, it's a social club, so you don't have to have it. I'm like, okay, that's fine. But I mean, is that, I'd love to see it in writing where it says, and you're a social club and you have your 300 or 400 or 500 members, it does not have to follow these standards, follow these guidelines.
Yeah. I mean, you see so much potential, obviously, Germany being, nation of, 88 million or something. And, potentially, and that's just a kind of, the German market. I mean, still outside of that, you've got so many other nations in Europe. But again, it feels like you're quite a rarity in that you're in a US company looking to Europe for, potential. Do you feel like, is it not enough opportunity in the US? I mean, there must be. Or you're just kind of thinking, well, there's a whole world out there. Let's not limit ourselves to just where we're based.
I think that's where, like, we follow the states as they become legal. Like how, like me as, sales manager here at TSRgrow, and I do a lot of the business development, I chase a lot of the new and upcoming states, and we're following, like, because they release it here in the States, it's all public info. So when they release like cannabis licenses, there's stuff that's out there where you can find the cultivation facilities, you can find the manufacturing, you can find the retail. So you kind of chase the states, and then like you have to attend some events, and I go to a fair amount of events. But then Europe is just another market where people aren't. It already is a global industry, just that people don't even really know about it. When you talk to people in Germany, or you talk to people, they're buying from all over. They're buying from Australia, buying from New Zealand, they're buying from Canada, and they're shipping it across the ocean. So it is a global industry. It just hasn't become, I'll call it a mainstream global industry. And it's, even like you and I are chatting about it, we're still in the early stages of this big business.
I mean, it certainly seems like it, doesn't it? I mean, and I always think I'm sort of naively optimistic that things can be done in a way that is a bit more ethical than other industries, or, but again, at the end of the day, we're still like big pharma coming in. What does that mean? A lot of people are worried about the influence of, alcohol and tobacco companies coming in. But again, I feel like it's just an economic reality, really. And they have the distribution networks. They have navigated highly regulated industries already. So it just kind of makes sense that they, would come in. But
it really does. It really does. I mean, just for them being in it, I try to keep an open mind on it. Some people will hate the bigger companies, or they're saying they're going to hurt the small guy. In some ways, they might pave some of the way, because they have the funding, they have the lobbying, they're going to go against the big political machine, and they're going to do it. But like what you just said, like how it's opening up a lot of industries where people like ask me, like I'm sure they ask you, like, how do I get into cannabis? I'm like, what do you do now? Like it don't go too far from what because it transfers over to any kind of, it's a business, and as we talk to a lot of these early cultivators and early licensee holders, were like, it's still a business. You have to run it. It is a business. It's fun, but there's a lot of headaches though too. Now you have to have HR. Now you have to have employees, and you have to have accounting. You have to have a legal team. You have to have security. You're going to need all these little ancillary things. Like, I don't say little, but all these ancillary things that help your business grow. And at the end of the day, when someone's like, it's indoor farming. It's not, not everybody's a farmer. They might like to consume.
That's it. I mean, but how did you kind of get into the cannabis industry? I mean, what were you doing before?
So I've been in sales for over now I'm approaching about 25 years now. I worked in a totally different industry, but in sales, managed teams and managed guys. And then Kyle Segal, who's our founder, he actually worked for many different companies in LEDs and then thermal cooling. And then what he did is he launched TSRgrow 15 years ago to get into the LED market. So, on a good, kind of a fun side note, my children and his children grew up together. So I've known Kyle for years. Yeah. I was, during COVID, it was kind of making a little bit of a transition, within I worked for a big corporate company. And he was in need of a person in sales. I was like, he actually, we would just chat and just kind of like high level dialogue. He's like, I think that we could have some fun doing this. He's like, you feel like running around and talking to guys who grow weed and talk about LED lighting and our solution and how we can help them and speed the market. And it just it's a good blend. He's like, here are the reins, run, go make some friends, find some people and see if we can make some sales. And it's been fun, but it is all about like helping the people though. I mean, because everyone needs a little something different. And we've done a lot of projects across the US and now globally too, where we can kind of help out a lot of the people, with whatever their needs are.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, in terms of how it sort of compares to sales roles in other sectors, how do you find, I always feel, again, what I'm doing in terms of like, content marketing, done that in other industries, in other sectors, and still do some stuff in the tech sector as well. But it's almost like, trying to take that skill set and bring it into cannabis, and it all becomes just slightly different again. And you have to almost really push for the kind of advocacy side of it, because not only, for me now it's become like a personal thing. Like, I want to kind of see the industry flourish, and, I want to see legalization here in the UK, and, but how do you find the skill sets that you've taken and brought it into cannabis? How does it kind of compare to other sectors?
I think for me, like on the sales side of it, and people that are in the sales, because everybody has their widget they want to promote. I think it's finding value and building that relationship with people. People still buy from people. You can have I compete against like all the big brands out there every day, like they might have a cheaper price. I feel like we have a great solution. I don't think, are we for everyone? I know obviously I'm going to be self-serving, say yes, we're for everyone, but no, we're not going to win every person we talk to. But I think if you do enough good things, I'm a good karma kind of guy where if we do enough good things for people, like things will come back your way. We won't win them all, but like that person might be a consultant working on a project, and they're saying, you know what, we're a little bit too far along. I wish we talked to you earlier, and that's fine. He says, but I've got 2 more that I'm working on, and that, be good to people, and I think that'll translate over. But like I was saying before, like people getting into cannabis or myself, I didn't know anything about it. I worked in corporate America, and they drug tested us 3 and 4 times a year. It was just random. So, and it was a no joke kind of company where if you got caught using, you lost your job. Yeah. So, and now, like you say, like the advocacy side of it, I love the story of how a lot of the growers have got into the business, which it's amazing. I've talked to veterans, how they got into the industry because they were going to the VA, and the VA does provide some medical, but they didn't. This is over in the US, the VA. So but he's like, I was on 25 different pills to like help me wake up, go to sleep, go to the bathroom, not go to the bathroom. He says, now he's like, I smoke a dab, he's like, I'll take a whack off a vape pipe and I'm good. He's like, I don't have any pain and I'm good. Yeah. Not saying that cured everything, but he says, boy, it limited what pills I take. Or you hear the person that, their family had some sort of chronic illness or they had MS. So everyone who has a story, they were making a tincture. They tried a tincture years ago and they always made them feel good. So now like how it transitions, they started this business to help themselves or help a family member. And it just it slowly stacked and they built a business around it. And I think that's where a lot of the businesses that you see that succeed or fail. I think that if you're in it for the right reasons in your heart, I mean, you still have to run a business, but you're doing it for the right reasons versus the people that are jumping into it and thinking this is going to be the next gold rush or green rush or whatever you want to call it. I don't think they'll probably make some money, but I don't think the sustainability isn't there.
No. Again, this is it. It takes the passion to actually push the industry forward, but at the same time, you've got to be connected or committed to it in order to do that. And it's almost like you've got to have the confidence to actually stick at it. Because I've spoken to a lot of different kind of service providers, different sort of events and things like that. And a lot of people are, like you were saying, like I was saying, there's money made in other sectors, not necessarily in cannabis, but at the same time, if your heart's in the cannabis side of things, for whatever reason, whether, you genuinely want to help people, whether you just like it, and feel like there's an injustice to be resolved, I feel like that's the case. A lot of companies are sort of like, well, we tried cannabis, to dip our toes in, there's no money in it, so screw it, we won't be back here next year. And it's like, oh, well, you kind of, shot yourself in the foot before you got started, but that kind of let's,
Agreed.
Suck it and see kind of thing. It's like, well, it doesn't work out that way.
That's kind of like you were saying, like the ancillary businesses. If you think about all the things that have spun up from it, like just even now you're an engineering firm or a specialty engineering firm that only does HVAC design or whatever it may be. Like it's definitely a unique plant to grow indoors versus other traditional agriculture indoors. But but all these specialty companies are spinning up, and I think I truly believe that. I'd like to see, like, I don't think there's as much as in the quotes, the cannabis tax. I don't think people are overcharging. I'm sure there are still some, but they filtered it out now where people like in the early days when they, 5 or 6 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, people getting into it and they feel like they're making a ton of money. So they're just going to charge them whatever. You can't do that. The consumer is super smart now. Yeah. And there's so much competition out there in all aspects of it. Like think about even there's realtors that just specialize in cannabis. There's attorneys that specialize in it, or they have a department that specializes in it, the accounting firms. And then there's regular accounting, like your day-to-day accounting. And then that spins up to there's special just tax accounting because you need someone to, so are you doing all the right things for your taxes? And then like even the security sector, like all the things that have spun up from it, like, like especially nature, walls. It's insane. Like the amount of all the moving parts that go into a build out in a design build project. Yeah, it's mind boggling. Still, every time I get on a call and there's a team call and there's 25 people on it from all these different businesses. It's so cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's that kind of. It certainly does feel like it's a movement, despite being a kind of a business or a sector. It does have that feel about it, just kind of being in cannabis. But you're based in Rhode Island, aren't you? So
Yeah, we're based in the Northeast. Yep.
Yeah.
We're based in
So
Rhode Island.
what's the status? Is it recreationally legal in your state? I know in Massachusetts, which is nearby, it is, isn't it? But how does it?
Yeah,
shake
it was.
out?
We were one of the early states. I don't remember the exact year we became a medical medical use state. I think it was before Massachusetts, and Massachusetts slowly followed suit. But they actually became adult use before us. In Rhode Island, again, it's the big political machine, and they had, they issued like 48 licenses, and they only have 3 dispensaries, and there's definitely some wonkiness that went on with. we all know what happens with the political system. It's definitely not perfect, but hey, but no, yeah. So Rhode Island's an adult use state. So now, I think a couple of years ago they announced adult use, and then they released another 6 dispensaries. It's a smaller state.
Yeah.
So that, but there's funny laws within the state that, like, even like billboards here, like you can't advertise if you have a cannabis business in the state. Up until, I think it's still law, they're trying to like change it. You couldn't have a billboard that promoted your business. You couldn't do any advertising.
Wow.
But you can actually, all those billboards that are in Rhode Island have Massachusetts companies on them, cannabis companies. So like, what sense does that make? As long as you're not promoting it within the state. So again, there's like a lot of.
Right, so you can promote other states' dispensaries or cannabis businesses, but not your own one in Rhode Island.
You can't do self-promoting within your state.
Okay, but could you take a billboard across the border in Massachusetts?
You could. There are billboards in Massachusetts that promote for Rhode Island.
So you can almost, like if you're driving in to the state, whichever state you're going to, it's like, whilst you're here, only 2 miles to the nearest dispensary just across the.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the whole thing.
Okay.
Like you're driving by a billboard and like, hey, did you get, there's a dispensary, a mile away. Get
thing,
off at 22 or whatever the number is.
Yeah. It's that kind of, these sort of workarounds. Like, okay, we can't advertise in our own state, so we'll go to the next one, which is down the road, and just have someone on the border. It's not
exactly. Like, now the border of each state, the major highways are just flooded with.
Is that so? I'd love to see. I mean, again, I've only been to when was it? Last time I was in the US was it was MJ Biz 22. So it's been a while. And again, I think it's one of the things that always impresses me when coming to the US. This just the level of billboards that you have compared to what we do here. Just kind of on the highway. It becomes like a thing. It's like, oh, what's that? And then you have all these really kind of obscure businesses. And it'll be kind of like a paternity DNA test lawyer specialist. It gets very niche very quickly. And it's like, dial 1-800, who's the dad, or what, things like that. I remember seeing that once. And it's like, so I can imagine you could have a lot of fun with sort of cannabis advertising in the same way. But again, it's finding those loopholes, as you were saying around.
It's the the gray area to operate their business. And it's a shame that it has to be like that. And then too, like you live in the world too, where we're talking about some of the businesses and ancillary businesses that get spun up. Think about like all the advertising agencies and the PR companies, because you have having to navigate what even your posts are on social media it's a whole nother challenge. Like our marketing director, she spends a ton of time trying to use the right verbiage and the right hashtags and the right. Sometimes it's a picture, because technically, like we're a design and manufacture company. We don't touch the plant, but we're treated like we are, and we do like terrible things, while we're growing medicine here for people that have ailments. They treat you like you're doing you're smuggling here.
This is it. This is the kind of this is the issue, really, isn't it? There's so much kind of stacked against wanting to do things properly, and in a way that is actually conducive to making it successful. But things just have to change bit by bit in order to say, well, that's the stumbling block for us. The fact we can't advertise in the way that we want to, or we can't use particular whatever it is, in the way that we want to. So there's always this constant kind of needing to find ways around, finding loopholes, saying, well, they didn't say we couldn't do that, so let's try that and see what happens. So much of it feels like, not just in the kind of marketing side of things, but I guess in so many different ways, where there's these regulations, it's about, and I suppose this is the way only the lawyers are really making money.
Well, I'm sure the lawyers are making plenty of money. I could tell you stories about stuff that you see. I mean, we need them, and we need them to fight for some things. But even to like the states that aren't even, a lot of it's communication and advocacy. I feel like you and I talk about that often when we chat. That I think it's just getting people to understand. We're not growing weed. to sell to kids. The majority of people that are buying it are the people that have money. It's a medicine first. It's always been a medicine before it's been adult use and fun. And if you look back, it was always used as a medicine, but then through slander campaigns at the turn of the 1900s, they really pushed it out, and it was just terrible things. But the people that, like, when I go out, because here in the States dispensaries are everywhere, I'm not sure how they are in the UK. I think you said you have to go to like a medical facility.
Well, there's
like just a pharmacy.
Yeah, well, again, it's not a physical pharmacy in the same way. I mean, I think that's changing slightly, but for the most part, the clinic's online, the dispensaries somewhere, it gets sent to you through the post. So you don't even have there's no kind of physical place to go to.
You don't allow anything to go through the mail. No, so like you go to a dispensary, my reasoning, like my train of thought was, like, you find when I go to dispensaries during the day to like that are tied to cultivations, because that's what we focus on primarily is cultivations. The people that are in there, the perception is that there's a whole bunch of high school kids or college kids just in there buying weed and getting stoned. And there's, I would say, 9 out of 10 times that it's all people, 45 to 65 in there buying. They're trying something that worked in the past, and they have an ailment or they have a pain, and they're asking like a bud tender to like kind of coach them through it. So these bud tenders, they don't realize how important their job is. That they're coaching some people on their journey, and they're going to have to, instead of like a person like myself saying, hey, what works for you? It doesn't. It's what works for me. It's like, it's a little bit of trial and error, trying to find out what strains you like and what you like to do, an edible versus a smoke or versus a vape, what you want to try. And I think it's a little bit of experimenting, and people need to, again, like, we need to crawl before we dive in 2 feet, because everybody has a funny story of something going sideways.
Yeah, but again, it's that whole idea of like, it's not one particular demographic. I remember going to the Netherlands and going to one of the coffee shops, and I think it was a Friday evening, and it's almost like every section of society was sort of queuing. You had people of all ages, all colors, all races. And it's just kind of like, well, it's not just one lot of, everyone was just kind of stocking up for the weekend, and I was like, this is awesome, and there's nothing wrong with that. This is just what people do, and it was great to see.
It's super interesting, Dave. So we were chatting. Before we started recording that, like, I'd been to a bunch of trade shows, and I'm going to another one tomorrow. But I just came from Minnesota. So in Minnesota, the market, I was actually quite surprised. It's hemp derived, like the THC drinks from hemp. Right. So obviously there's a process that goes through, but that's in a lot of the C stores. It's not a dispensary. So you can buy THC drinks in a convenience store. Right. There's actually in the hotels, in like the bar at the hotel, you can buy a THC drink just like an alcoholic beverage, not high dosage. So Minnesota's got this robust, I'll call it a beverage market. I mean, I'm not sure if that's what I'm calling it, if it's the right thing, but we'll call it a beverage market. There's drinks everywhere, and it's like the same size as a beer or the same size as like an 8-ounce Red Bull. They have a few different size things, and they're just promoting it. But it's all because it's THC derived from hemp. They just can go. It's under an agricultural bill, they were saying, and it's everywhere. So if you think, again, we're talking about ancillary businesses that spin up. So there's this canning line on how many people this industry will employ, because it's agriculture. They need a lot of people. It's people heavy because it's farming. Yep. I mean, they try to automate as much as they can, but it's still a plant. You have to get in there and touch stuff and move things around. And then, there's this giant beverage market that's like opening up. And then there's all these edibles, and how they're ingesting or delivering it to their body. It's so cool.
No, absolutely. And again, being in the UK, we have a huge drinking culture, lots of beer. I mean, again, but it would be, I really think that the beverage and, industry, like THC beverage, I mean, CBD beverages, you can still buy in the supermarkets and things here, brands like, I think have like Trip and Good Rays and things like that. And it's a bit of a novelty. Like, oh, what's this? It's kind of, so there's an awareness of it. And it's like, you can see the sort of popularity. You see people of, again, different ages. It's not, you're often surprised that, people sort of, boomer age is sort of trying it out and sort of giving it a go. I kind of try to get into it.
Yeah, they tried it in high school or college, and they want to be like, hey, you know what? I'm not retired, but I'm approaching that age, and I want to try a few different things. And hey, I'm having a hard time sleeping, and as I got older, like, or whatever it is, I'm not sleeping well. So, I have pain, and instead of me taking an Advil every day, how about I do this? And it's not like you're smoked so much where you're on the couch eating Doritos all night long. It's just like you tried it during the day and it made you feel good and it carried you through the day.
Yeah.
And it made you feel better. And even too, like when you go to the physician and like, if you don't like the drinking, like you say, the drinking culture is giant and we don't really hear like, if you drink a fifth of whiskey every night, you're probably not doing good towards the end of the year.
But you'll sleep pretty well.
Yeah, you sleep goddamn real well, but we don't know what your liver is going to look like. But
exactly.
Like, I don't hear. I mean, I'm sure there's still plenty of studies to be done on the industry itself, the effects. But I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's already out there that there's a lot of positives to it, and I just think that we need to bring awareness to everyone and talk about all the good. Everybody was so hung up on the bad, and I think a lot of a slander campaign. That's just, again, that's me in my opinion. Not like it matters.
No, but it's true, and again, it kind of does matter because everyone has their own take on it, and there are kind of different biases, and it's only by sort of perpetuating and having regular people like us talk to our friends, our neighbors, our families around. Actually, there's a whole industry, and actually, it's not that bad. It's like I talk to my parents, I talk to my in-laws, and go, "Oh yeah, CBD. I've seen that in the health food shop. That's the bit. It's cannabis bit's the bit that doesn't get you high, and they can live with that. That's okay."
And you don't have to. And like a lot of those, you don't get really high, but you don't have to take it till you get to that point. Just like you can have a drink socially, but some people don't know how to do that. And so it's like
it's the unknown quantity, isn't it? It's kind of if I take a vape of like my medical stuff that I get, I know have a few puffs, and that's kind of leveling. But if I go at it for 20 minutes, then that's not that's the end of the day for me, sort of thing. And that's fine because but it's only through that trial and error, like you say, that experimentation, by trying things out and not being afraid to go, actually, I know that what I'm doing is safe because I understand where it's come from, what it is, and been given some advice a bit around it, but it's still trying to figure out what works for me in different situations, isn't it? And
it's educating. It's educating people and trying to,
absolutely.
And not saying you or I know everything on it. I mean, we have a pretty good knowledge of it, but there's so many people that know. I mean, and again, it's a community. There's so many people that know so much more. And every time I talk to someone on the phone, I learn something. Every time I meet someone in person and they tell you their story or their journey, and you're like, this is the coolest thing ever. I wish I could remember or record every conversation I've had because it's just so, it's really exciting. It's an exciting industry. And all the different, like we're talking about all the different businesses that spin up for us too. We do the lighting portion of it and power management. And we call it, it's a solution for us. It's not just the lighting, because we're looking at all different angles of it. And I think it's going to come about more in Europe, but I haven't really heard much. But like here in the States, there's incentives to operate efficiently, just like anything. So when we're focusing on grows here in the States, we're contacting the utility. On a couple sides, can the grid handle a big grow, because they do consume a lot of power? Does it make sense to put some solar out there? I mean, I don't think it's there yet, but we actually, there's facilities that have solar that can power some parts of it. I mean, it's just, we're getting efficiencies. Where are you for your water? Like we're always, there's all these different industries and businesses. So there's these water treatment and water filters and the energy. There's just energy modeling people that just do energy modeling. So to see like how much is this going to cost me when they first become adult use, it seems like the market has a big spike in cost. Meaning that it's out there and it's speed to market.
But this is the professionalization aspect that a lot of people are sort of bemoaning. They're sort of like, well, cannabis needs to kind of grow up and figure it out. It's like everyone who's coming into it has experience of other industries. It's there. It's just, there isn't this kind of stuffy culture around it in the same way there is in more corporate stuff. And I think that's a good thing. It's a lot more honest. It's a lot more kind of,
it's kind of, it's an honest, casual, like you're just more casual chatting with people and trying to like, yes, you're right. We are figuring some stuff out as we go, but I think as an industry as a whole, there's like you said, teams and slews of professionals, that there's energy efficient modeling people that, they're looking at the Tyson chicken plant and saying, how can this place operate more efficiently if we change a light bulb to these different light bulbs and they can save millions of dollars? It just translates over to cannabis. So like it's with any part of it, if these type of things translate over to cannabis, there's all these pros out there that are getting into it, and they're helping these become, because the businesses have to be sustainable and successful. It's not, you're going to run out of venture capital money at some point, investor money.
But I think at the same time, I think we all are certainly here. I think a lot of the world still looks to the US as kind of being, the sort of OG in all of this in terms of, culturally, economically, and, financially, and politically as well. It's kind of, what happens in the US. And again, I think there's been sort of share price spikes over the last 24 hours for some of the bigger cannabis firms. But it's like what kind of goes in the US has such huge ramifications kind of globally for the cannabis industry in particular, and for other sectors too. But it's we're all kind of waiting with bated breath to see what's coming next. But I mean, just to kind of round things off, what do you think's going to sort of happen with the rescheduling? What's your kind of hope, I guess, more than anything, rather than,
it would be pretty awesome that these cultivators and these dispensaries can have some write-offs, because they're already operating on pretty thin margins. Mm-hmm. Everybody thinks that they're making killer money, and they're doing okay, but they're not. I mean, they still have employees. They've got taxes. I mean, the taxes that they're paying are just astronomical, because sometimes there's state taxes. There's all these like municipal type taxes. Yeah. So I think that with the rescheduling, I'm hoping it helps. I hope it helps them, but I don't think it's going to be like we were saying, so now the DEA says yes. Yeah. Let's table it and chat about it. Is it going to actually go through? I don't know. I mean, it's an election year here in the States. I mean, who knows what the hell's going to go through? Was it like a play to get votes and then it's not going to get pushed through? I don't know. Yeah. So I don't think it'll happen. I think it'll happen, but I don't think it'll come into effect. I don't think people will see the effects of it for at least a year. Yeah. It could be even greater than that. It could be because they have to kind of figure out what they're going to do. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think it's all good. And I'm actually just glad that they're talking about cannabis as like a common dialogue.
I mean, that's more than's happening here. I mean, again, we have an election year, and, we're hoping that the party that's been in power for the last sort of 15 years is going to be replaced. But at the same time, they're a sort of right-leaning party. So, they have to sort of maintain, a veneer of what I'm going to say, respectability, appealing to the kind of, twin set and pearls sort of brigades to kind of maintain this veneer of respectability. And I don't think cannabis comes into the equation anytime soon, unfortunately. But
and it's a shame that they've done that, because I think that once I don't know what the federal governments in each country, in each wherever whenever the government starts to realize that this is a legitimate business, there's revenue to be generated from tax dollars. Mm-hmm. Assume that's all that they have to say. Well, we can collect tax dollars on it. They're like, oh yeah, let's push this thing ahead.
Well, they all like money, right? So
they all do like money. And that's what keeps they have to keep the political wheels rolling with dollars. And I think that some states, like I always use it, for instance, as a town in Massachusetts, right across the border from Rhode Island, that the town recognized like the tax revenues that they can generate. So they granted many licenses. They called them host community agreements. And they, like, when you drive into this little town, it was like a defunct mill town. And it was kind of just meh, and like no one really lived there, no one did anything, but all these cannabis businesses spun up. And then all of a sudden you see industry going back to this town, all new streets, all new street lights, nice fire department, nice police department. The school's brand new. All the kids have 2 laptops, one for home, one for school. You're like, there's some tax revenue that's being generated. And if the town is taking, and they're not even taking advantage of it, just that the business is so big, they're just taking a little portion of it pie, and they're putting it to good use, where all of a sudden you start to see like, wow, this actually worked for our town. It was a good development project.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's kind of taking
they bring in hundreds of more people to be working in that town. All of a sudden, all the restaurants, they need to eat somewhere. They need to get gas somewhere. They buy goodies at the convenience store.
Yeah, well, that's it. Especially if they're buying all that weed, you're gonna need to get hungry and
get the munchies.
Yeah, exactly, right. So well, again, say it in jest, but at the same time, it's it's true. It all has a knock-on effect in a positive way, and
I agree.
It just shows that you do one thing and the ramifications. And I guess a lot of it is about the perception, isn't it? But changing those perceptions, because if you can demonstrate that it's actually done some good, and use that as a kind of case study. Because again, I think that was the case.
That perception is important, because people, it's just society in itself. They judge a book by its cover, and they see these they see people and they smell it and they're like, everybody, as soon as they catch a whiff of like someone smoking a joint in a car, like, oh, I saw more people, they're always high on the highway. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like they're all banged up. I'm like, it just like one puff canters around and they probably don't even know, or if they smell me because I'm in grows all the time. It's a different smell of flowering cannabis versus, combusted cannabis. But everybody just, oh yeah, this guy's always high. You're like, actually, no.
Yeah.
I'm like, I still have to do some adult things. Just like I'm not drinking that at 10 a.m.
Yeah, exactly. But it's cool. It's cool. But no, really good to chat with you as always, Tony. And thank you so much for coming on. And best of luck. Where are you going to be next? Are you coming over this side of the pond anytime soon?
Cool.
I
would love to meet up with anybody as they listen to the podcast. So this weekend, I go to Maryland, and then I'm home for a few weeks after that. Then I go to Germany. I think it's God, I can't think of the name of the trade show, but I'll be in Germany. I think the show is
Mary Jane.
Mary Jane. It's Mary Jane Berlin. Thank you. Yeah. So it's the 16, 17, 18, I think, or 15, 16, awesome. 17. Yeah. So we'll have a stand over in Europe, in Berlin at that show. So that'll be good. We can connect with people and help them out.
Very cool.
And show them some different options and some solutions that, just because of the way that the German model is, and with the social club business, we've got a solution for them over there. And any way that we can help them, we're always here to help.
Brilliant stuff. Well, good luck with it all, sir. And I will see you soon. Take care.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time. Take care.
All the best. Bye.